All right, guys, we're keeping our Salute to Soldiers month rolling right along here in the middle of May. This week's entry, Hacksaw Ridge. Now, I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I know I'm going to mix this up with Heartbreak Ridge at least 3 or 4 more times throughout this whole month because I think I've already done it like 3 or 4 times. But this is Hacksaw Ridge, starring Andrew Garfield, Vince Vaughn, a bunch of other people you'd know from other different things for sure. I saw a bunch of people popping up in there. Kingsley, what year did this come out? Because I'm already forgetting. It's not that old, but it's getting up there.
This movie came out in 2016.
Okay, so we're not quite at the 10-year mark yet, but still, it's getting up there. Basics of the movie, it's an interesting story. It's kind of like the We Were Soldiers thing. It's about an actual guy, actual soldier. Not ironically, but this was directed by Mel Gibson, if I remember right, in the credits there. So kudos to him. The guy knows his way around a war film. I'll give him that much. You know, not personal stuff notwithstanding with him. He's great behind the camera. I think he gets the war movie thing. But this follows the story of Desmond Doss. He was an Army medic in World War II. He was part of the Pacific Theater. They did the action on Hacksaw Ridge in Okinawa. It's not a gimmick, but it's the core of the story is that he's a conscientious objector, which is somebody that still elects to serve, but in his unique case, he was allowed to not have to qualify with any of the weapons components of basic training as it was a violation of his religious convictions. So he had to go through a legal process to enable him to just not be locked up, like they were going to send him to Leavenworth. And then it kind of pulls another Full Metal Jacket thing, like some of the other movies we've watched where at the halfway point, he's resolved his legal personal stuff and then he actually gets deployed. And we get to see what he actually did that actually earned him his legacy and made him a legend, actually, by the end of the film. And one of the most visceral war sequences I can ever remember seeing. And we've watched a bunch this month. It's pretty straightforward. But, dude, overall, what did you think about just the movie in general? Don't deep cut into scenes. Don't deep cut into performances just yet. Just overall thoughts.
All right. So first I have to say this was the first time I watched it when I watched it yesterday with my wife. It was the first time I actually seen this movie. So this was the first one for me. So your first one was Heartbreak Ridge. And this was the first time for me, Hacksaw Ridge.
Me too. This was my first go on this one as well, actually. I hadn't seen this in theater when it came out. So double first time. Cool.
So going into it, I knew it was directed by Mel Gibson, and this was the movie that actually made people fall in love again with Mel Gibson after the whole personal issues he had, and a lot of people, turning their back on him and stuff. But we're not here to talk about that. I thought it was a pretty good movie going in. I watched it and I was entertained. I thought a little bit was over the top or over dramatized for Hollywood than the real story. I think I was found wrong on a lot of that when they had the at the end where they're actually interviewing Desmond Doss.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty interesting story, to say the least.
Interesting is one of the easy words we can throw up throw up against the wall and it'll definitely stick. I think by the end of the movie, I switch it all from interesting to just downright inspiring. Like honestly, the last block of that movie, I'm not sure. Like you said, they basically they verify that he did what he did. Like he received the Congressional Medal of Honor because of his actions there. So I don't think that part was necessarily over dramatized, if I'm saying that correctly. But I definitely this was another one for me where I felt like it had like a nice slow build at the beginning. They established his character. They gave you his background, his family life, what the world was like, and in that middle stages of World War II when America was just getting involved and really ramping up the enlistment around the country, the country boys out there leaving the cornfields and everything, to do their part and everything, getting married on the way out, like all of that stuff that like I've heard those stories growing up. So I'm glad they included all those things in there. But I think that those two distinct parts in the movie play their role really well, and it's got a really nice bridge scene in the middle, right according to story structure, where his dad shows up and has some involvement in that legal proceeding that allows it to, break his way. But story structure wise, I had that, the timeline on the bottom of the streamer as you're going, that was tapping up rapid fire on that. And dude, every 10 minutes, the right beat happened just to move them along, where he meets the girl, he gets into the Army, he has his first issue, that's the pinch point, he gets to go with the unit. Then they get there, they have like the first contact with the enemy. It's like at the halfway point of the movie, like to the minute,
Yeah.
And then just not to beat story structure too much, but they might have had the best Dark Night of the Soul scene I've ever seen in any movie, where he's up on the ridge by himself and he's talking to God. I can't hear you. What do you want from me? I can't hear you. And then he hears the wounded guy calling for him, and he's just walking into hell. I haven't seen badassery like that in a long time.
So when it comes to religion and feeling that and hearing like God's word, it comes in so many different forms. Some people would say they have visions. Other people say they actually hear him speak. Others, it's like they read something and it's like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
It just,
like they feel that
clicks.
feeling of the spirit, and that's what it is. It's when that spirit comes into you and you just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. So I loved how they captured that of a man of God being driven to do something, even though he has to do it at a lesser point because his values are more than... He wouldn't compromise his values and his point of mind to do something, even though he still wants to do it in a different form.
And one of the best parts about that too, when you're talking about not compromising the values, one of the scenes that really stuck with me, and this whole thing, this whole video for us, I think is going to be one big celebration of Andrew Garfield's talent, because this dude, did he win anything for this movie? Did he get nominated for anything here?
I'm pretty sure he got nominated.
Because he should have. No, not the movie. Him. Like, it should have been a Best Actor nomination, 100%. Because he's got that scene we just talked about. Remember the scene where he's in the jail cell and his wife to be comes in to talk to him, right? And she's like, have you ever considered that maybe you're just being prideful? And he actually has a moment. There's a character building moment there where he like considers her word. Where he's like, wait a minute. It's like the Skinner meme from The Simpsons. Like, wait a minute. Am I the bad guy? No, it's got to be everybody else. But he has that beat, where he actually reconsiders all the crap he's been through up until that moment.
And that's one of the things with, like, in the American church, that a lot of people, especially when they take it too extreme, that they are being prideful, because the one thing, like, when you're judging another person for their sin, it's to hide your sin. Right. Like it's easy to go after people who you can see their sin, but people don't know what you're doing. What if you have a porn addiction? What if you're an adulterer? You don't get to see that sin because it's held in secret, but you're just as much a sinner as everyone else. But your pride is there's like, oh, these people are wrong. You guys are sinning against God, and you shouldn't. Just go look in the mirror. He without sin can cast the first stone.
Yep. I thought that was a full-on display in a bunch of those scenes, too, because this movie, it dedicates a full half of the amount of time to establishing Doss's absolute refusal to be complicit in degrading his convictions, up until the point where they threaten him with jail, but that comes after he's gotten his ass kicked. Like, the guys in his unit,
because they were losing liberties and different things. The sergeant was harder on them because of what he was doing.
Yep. But that was a great scene, because when it comes down to it, he didn't dime anybody out. Like, he was like, nope, I didn't say I was attacked. Like, he denied outright without, like, he didn't lie to the sergeant when he was questioned. He's like, I didn't say nothing about being attacked. He just put his shirt back on, went about his business, and then they phase into the trial bit. But I thought it was a wise choice, even though it was slower, but it was compelling because of Garfield's performance, both with the guys in the unit and taking their crap. And there's another good character building moment there too with Smitty, who was outright antagonistic to him, punched him in the mouth, took his Bible, all that good stuff, becomes his guy up on the ridge for as long as he, survives that part. That hit hard too when he didn't make it through. That was a tough scene to watch, because that dude was crazy.
That's one of the things that they captured well in this, is that just because you're in like what they do a lot of times in movies is when you become a named character with a lot of dialogue.
You get plot armored.
You're plot armored. You're not going to die, but that's the thing about war, is like you could be the best, but a bullet's non-discriminatory. So it doesn't know that you have a family. It doesn't know that you have friends. It doesn't know how hard you trained. It just hits you. Yeah,
that's why I think that it was a nice they had a little minute. They had like a relationship arc, to coin the phrase. They're antagonistic at they're friendly at the beginning enough. Then they realize he's a conscientious objector, won't pick up a gun, so the relationship sours. But then they get deployed, and they get the ass kick, and that's even lower. But then when they get deployed, Smitty sees firsthand that Doss is out there doing all the same shit they're doing without the benefit of a gun.
Yeah,
like he can't defend himself, so he comes to respect him. When they're in the foxhole, they talk it through.
One of the things you need to understand about conscientious objectors, a lot of people use that to get out of war. They use it like in the whole the 20-year war that we just got out of. Afghanistan and Iraq, there was conscientious objectors at the beginning of that for religious reasons, some for personal reasons, some for political. They didn't want to be part of that, and they were conscientious objectors, and they were chaptered out of the army for being conscientious objectors. This is one of the first stories where a conscientious objector actually still deployed and was awarded the Medal of Honor. He was the first conscientious objector to be awarded the Medal of Honor. So that's one of the things to understand about this, is that most people use this to get out of war, and he used it to still go, and I think even succeed more. Because
I think Sam Worthington's character, his captain, said that flat out. He said, "You've done more here than any man could have done." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes this movie such an interesting clash of perspectives. Like, you can see where the army was coming from at the Sam Worthington level, at the Vince Vaughn level, and the command. I don't remember what the colonel's name was. There was the three of them basically. That were all like, "We need you to fall in and conform, because it can compromise unit cohesion." And that's a legit concern. Like, that's a thing. Like, if you've got the odd thumb out making himself into what could be perceived as the weakest link in the chain, like, that does compromise your safety and your ability to do what you have to do. So I can see that. But then juxtaposed, I can see a guy who says, "I'm so down to be here that I won't carry a gun, and I'll do the most dangerous job we have, which is be unarmed and pull wounded guys back and treat them under fire." Maybe it's not the most dangerous job, but I mean, dude, it's up there. You know what I mean? He's not in the back firing artillery or anything like that. They
added that level of difficulty when he got there. Like, they're targeting the wounded on purpose, and the Red Cross is pretty much a bullseye. So take that off, and I got you a new helmet.
Yep, which was a great scene. Dude, that medic was a badass too. Remember, he didn't make it through because they got down to their last jar of plasma, and he's like, no, give it to that dude. I'll be okay. And then basically he died because of that.
You also saw where he kind of loosened his turn. I think he was like he wanted to go.
Yeah. No, but I mean, he was all shocked. I mean, when they got back to base at that first moment, like, he was shell shocked beyond belief. Like, when the first fresh recruit's like, "Hey, I asked you what it was like up there," he just turns and gives him the stare. He's like, like, "Oh, dude, if he could have chilled your nutsack off, it was that moment. Like, you probably should have BTFO'd yourself before that guy snapped," just like in Heartbreak Ridge. No, We Were Soldiers, with the helicopter pilot pulling the gun on the other guy, being like, "What did you just say to me? Like, you didn't see what I saw, yada yada." Like, that was that moment.
Yeah.
But the performance of Garfield on the ridge, notwithstanding, doing like with the ingenuity of making the makeshift like rappels system to get guys down, and running his hands, like rope burning his hands to get 75 guys down. He had the
canvas. You saw they had the canvas to help, and then he had like the whole working it with the.
It was brilliant.
The pulley system.
Brilliant. You know what I mean? That's just that one character getting into it like that. But another one of the performances that I wanted to put up there while we're just talking performances, dude, Hugo Weaving, Force of Nature, is the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Playing a great broken down old man from World War I, alcoholic, wife beater, family dynamics out the wazoo. Talk about him for a minute. Give him the flowers.
So just to throw a little perspective into this, when I went into this, I thought this was a Vietnam War movie because a lot of the ridges and stuff had names. I thought this was Vietnam. And then so when he was there talking to his friends, I thought, and he's talking about fighting in France, I thought that was, World War II. He was part of the Normandy invasion. But when I found out that he was part of the Great War and this was World War II, that they're
trenching it
in, he was straight trench warfare, and like how he lost all his buddies. Like, you saw that he was he lost a little bit of himself over there in the war, suffering from PTSD because he lost his best friends. They all signed up together. Yep. You saw that great scene where his first son comes home in uniform.
Yep.
And he was talking about his friend and like how proud he was in the uniform and how the women all flocked to him. And he's like, get shot in the front, because if you get shot in the back, you're gonna come out. Like, he'd probably feel bad that how bad his uniform looked. I mean,
I thought there was so much good shit to that character.
His son needed him. You saw that him growing from being an alcoholic PTSD war vet to someone
he put the uniform back on.
Yeah.
He put it back on.
He hated. He hated that uniform. He hated everything about war. He hated everything that the military stood for at the time.
He hated himself because of the war, like the wife said, like the wife explained to the boys, when they were younger. I think it was Doss that said to his mom, he said, why does he hate us so much? She's like, he doesn't hate us. He hates what he's become, or what. I mean,
he hates
paraphrasing.
Himself. He
hates himself, right?
Yeah, he goes, I wish you knew him before the war.
Yes. And Hugo Weaving captures that with this really, it's not unsettling, but it's a fascinating balance between he's so broken emotionally that you can tell he's going to sob at any given minute, with like explosive bits of alcoholic rage that include him pulling a gun on his wife. And we get that revealed bits at a time until the end of the movie. It's getting into that legal scene, and then the end of the movie, I think in the foxhole, where it's Doss explaining to Smitty, right? Yep. Right, where he's like, they give you the flashback, and it's Doss rescuing his mom from being shot. Like, he takes the gun from his dad, pulls the hammer back, and he's like, never again. Like, we're done here. And like, a crazy good performance from Hugo Weaving, man. Crazy good.
Yeah. And like, we'll go back to Andrew Garfield here just for a second. Like, the way he portrayed this Desmond Doss, who was a little bit off. Like, he wasn't your normal everyday type guy. I mean, he grew up a hillbilly. They even called him
a farm boy.
A Virginia hillbilly. Yeah. He didn't have much schooling. And I think he portrayed it just perfectly, like that awkwardness, like when he was first meeting who would become his wife.
I thought that was charming as all hell, by the way. Like, that was some borderline, but not quite Forrest Gump Jenny level. You know what I mean? But it was because he's not, that low down on the scale.
Yeah.
But go ahead, continue, please.
I think a lot of these actors liked what he pulled off here. He was nominated for Best Actor, by the way. I did see that. He wasn't nominated. He didn't win, but he was nominated. It was also nominated for Best Picture.
What won? Honestly,
I'd have to go back and look for which.
We'll do that. We'll do that later. But maybe you guys will let us know in the comments below. Who beat Andrew Garfield the year this came out for Best Actor? Because that's obnoxious.
It goes in line with people like Roy McIlroy. When he played in Split. Like, if you actually watch Split and how he did that
James
multi-person... Yeah, James McAvoy, that's it.
I think you named the golfer.
The golfer. I always get them too confused.
Yeah, James McAvoy is Professor X. And in Split.
Yeah, James McAvoy in Split. And then again in Glass.
Yep.
Like,
he was great.
How he did... What else does he have to do to even get a nomination? Because
I played 13 characters in here. Like, I played 13 people.
13 distinct characters.
Right.
Like, there was no overlap. And he pulled it off, like, seamlessly.
Dude, side note, we should do a Shyamalan coverage thing. Maybe that trilogy. Should. Yeah, get some Unbreakable, Glass, Unbreakable, Split, and Glass of the trilogy, right?
Yep, those are the three.
Put a pin in it. We're doing that at some point in June. Okay, anyway. But yeah, the performance. Get back to the Garfield performance. Give him all the credit, dude. Shovel it to him, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah,
it's his.
Like, you get worried when you hear Andrew Garfield, basically off of his Spider-Man performance. Wasn't the greatest. You had Jeanette Spider-Man.
Yeah, I didn't mind him.
He had a little bit more of the trash talking than the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but nothing compared to what Tom Holland's Spider-Man was.
Well, I think they figured out that they needed to write him more like that, because that's main trademark characteristic of the superhero.
Yeah.
But
and the only other thing I really knew him in, other than that, was The Social Network. He also had that musical where it was about the guy who wrote Rent, where he had a really great line in that, because it was right before he wrote Rent, and like he's still trying to become a writer, and he's about to turn 30, and they sing the song 1990 30, And he goes, at some point, I don't. You go from a writer who waits to a waiter with a hobby.
Yeah. Hey, that's not a bad line. That's not a bad line at all. Did you want to throw in like bonus talk on Vince Vaughn playing the drill sergeant? Like at first I was a little on it, but then I was like, I've seen him get all loud and stuff before, like the breakup and old school and stuff like that. So I mean, I knew he had it in him. I thought it was an alright character. It was a bit weird seeing him get all up like that, I guess, but I think he was a quintessential sergeant on the ground.
I think it took Vince Vaughn a little out of his comfort zone, which was great because you saw that different performance in him. Because like in every movie, Vince Vaughn plays Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
The breakup, the
Dodgeball.
the internship, the dodgeball. He's always
Wedding
Vince
Crashers.
Vaughn. Wedding Crashers. What's the other one where he's like he fathered like 55 kids because he was a sperm donor during college?
Shit,
The Delivery Man.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You're right, dude. He's basically the same dude. He went through that run where he was the hottest thing in rom-coms. And,
yeah, rom-coms and comedies. Him and Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson, right? Yeah, for sure. But I liked him in that role, leading from the front, doing all the Sarge stuff, getting in people's faces, trying to drum Andrew Garfield's character out for all the legit, like their side legit reasons that they didn't want to get everybody killed because they figured this guy was going to get them killed.
That was actually one of the best parts, watching like how all of their attitudes changed towards him during this whole thing.
Yeah, I think that comes together really nice in the scene after the beating, where Vince Vaughn comes in hot, and then his demeanor just completely changes. He's like, "It's just time to quit, son. Like, grab your stuff, get dressed. I'll walk down with you." Like his tone goes to regular Vince Vaughn.
He couldn't even see it anymore. He couldn't watch because technically it's one of his soldiers. I mean, you have a connection with him, and he couldn't see his soldiers keep going through this type of punishment and day-to-day just abuse.
Yep. Yeah, it was definitely rough. It was absolutely rough. They took the verbal jabs first, then they went to the physical jabs, then it went through the legal system, and like it's such a like. It was almost frustrating to watch at that part because they have a line specifically where they're like, the two outcomes here is he wins the case, but he loses and goes to Leavenworth, right? Or he wins and they dishonorably discharge him anyway, and then he'll likely come home and kill himself because he had already said during the trial that I want to go do my part because everybody else is doing their part, and I already know three guys from my hometown that were 4F unable to go. And they killed themselves. Right. And that was a thing. Like that was an absolute part of the culture.
Yeah.
Circa 1940, the 1940s, patriotic duty and that kind of thing. And guys, if they I think that even came up in Masters of the Air, they mentioned guys that had committed suicide because they were classified 4F and unable to go to boot. So I think that was just such a rough scene to watch, like in the courtroom. You're like, dude, they're going to try and absolutely run this dude out on a rail. Or lock him up, and for what? I'm like, he wants to go. Like, find him some shit to do and let him go. It was just weird.
Yeah, and
not weird, but frustrating.
What built his conscious ejection was his view on the Ten Commandments, based off of the beliefs of the Seventh-day
Adventist.
Yeah, that's it. Which is, if you want to look back on who you might know, is that Ben Carson. That's his religion, faith. Mm-hmm. Is that it said "Thou shalt not kill"? Because remember, he had that scene where he hit his the younger version of him hit his brother with the brick and knocked him silly, and then he was there just standing looking, and it had like a picture of Cain and Abel, which was brothers who killed each other. Cain killed Abel.
Yeah,
the first murder, and that's why one of the commandments is "Thou shalt not." He said kill, but it actually is "Thou shalt not commit murder," which is killing without reason. He has his point on why, but we also see another reason why he has it because of the firearm and the whole scene with his mom and his dad is the other reason why he will never touch a gun again.
I think it's mainly the capacity for violence issue that he learned at a young age that his actions when violent can have massive repercussions because when his dad's about to whoop him, the mom already says he's violent enough. Like, we don't need another whooping. And she goes to talk to him, and he's still all like stunned and staring at the picture of the Ten Commandments. And the only thing he says to his mother is, "I could have killed him." And like, so you can see the light bulb went off in like 10-year-old Desmond Doss's head. Like, I hit my brother in the head with a brick while we were fist fighting. I didn't mean to, like, I did it, but I didn't mean for it to be something that could have killed him. You know what I mean? Like, he was shocked.
What about his dad during that scene? It's like, he's like, this way I only have to whip the winner.
Yeah. No, but it was, maybe there was a missing bit in there somewhere, because like at first they were playing somewhere else, but then they're fist fighting. Like there was no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess I got like 5 of them, 6 of them. I don't remember how many, but you know what I'm saying? Like there was no instigating thing. Like all of a sudden they're just like rolling and trading blows. And Hugo Weaving's character's like, "Desmond, you got to block with your right." And then the mom sticks her head out the window, just like, I don't remember what his name was. I'll call him Sam. Like, "Sam, are you kidding me? Do something." You're like, this way here, I only got to whoop the winner. You know, like, okay. But dude, that's drunk ass Hugo Weaving's alcoholic World War I veteran dad. Like, that's all, I can see that. You know what I mean? In that kind of environment. Because think about that environment, like in 1940s, whenever, they're all rural in West Virginia, wherever they were. They're so rural and disconnected to the point that when Garfield comes home and he gets all dressed up and he's going to go back and talk to Dorothy, Mom asks him, "Hey, what are you all dressed up for?" He goes, whatever he says, you know, "I met a girl, I'm going to go talk to her." Hugo Weaving character's like, "Have you ever even actually talked to a woman outside of this family?"
Family, outside of family.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's borderline Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes minus the cannibalism in this part. But you can see it. This is just an independent family. They live on their 15 acres or whatever their farm is. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has I don't have much schooling, as he said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he probably knows the 2 women that are in town at the store that he goes to with his mom.
Yeah.
You know?
The scene in the at the movie theater, and he's like, "Do you want me to give you a book?" He's like, "I'm dating." He started talking about the difference between an artery and a vein. He's like, "You got to work on your boy-girl date talk." And he's like, "I have a book for you if you're interested." He's like, "What, I'm dating?"
I thought they were really funny together. I thought all that stuff worked. I like the bit following the movie theater where he sneaks up the kiss on her and she smacks him, but you can tell instantly from the smack that like that was a reflex from her. And then it plays out that way because he doesn't follow her. She crosses the street and she's like, "Well, you coming or what?" And like then he walks into the road and almost gets hit by a car again, which was kind of funny. Like, I thought the 2 of them were really charming in the limited time they had together on screen. You know, and the part where he's locked up and they flash to the church where she's waiting for their wedding because he was supposed to go home and get married on the first leave available at boot. And the priest says, "How long do you want to wait?" You know, sometimes guys just get cold feet. And she's like, "No, not my Desmond." Yeah. And it's like, and she absolutely believed that. And she was right. Yeah. I mean, obviously she was right, because when she actually gets to go see him at in lockup, he's like, "They wouldn't let me call you." And I'm like, that's some bullshit right there too. You know, imagine that. That is some bullshit. But you know, that's the military code of justice and not the civilian. You know, everybody gets a phone call and a lawyer nonsense at that point.
Yeah, the uniform code of military justice.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so you know, they instead of thinking she got ditched at the altar, She-Hulk style, and you know, going out and meeting 5 guys in 5 days, she was like, "No, not my Desmond," and you know, there they go. And then and we saw at the end of the movie, they ended up being married for like 50 fucking years. Like she died in 91, I think, and they never parted. Like they never divorced. You know, like that's crazy.
That's awesome. You don't see that much anymore.
Nope.
Yeah.
You don't. That's old school cool in a lot of ways. You know. So I liked all that.
All right. So for a little bit of my military trivia in this.
Shoot.
The Uniform Code of Military Justice. A lot of people think the uniform part stands for we're in uniform, so it's the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It actually stands for uniform that is standardized throughout all branches. Falls under one.
Yep. I know what uniform means. I know some words.
Yeah.
Let's switch over from performance talk though. Let's jump in all the action stuff. Right, let's talk about that second half of the movie, because again, if you guys have seen Full Metal Jacket, you know, if you've watched Heartbreak Ridge again after we just watched it, it's only about the first half of the movie that gets into Desmond Doss's life, you know, through the army, his brief bits growing up to set up the family stuff, and then as he's a young man, and he meets Dorothy, and then all of a sudden it's boots over. I've won my court case. We're going to Japan. We're in Okinawa now.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, because it goes straight from the end of the court case where they found out that his conscious ejection is protected by the U.S. Constitution.
Yep.
On some court ruling, I forgot all the complete details for it, but it ruled that he is, so therefore he didn't disobey a direct order. So the colonel withdrew his complaint to have it. So therefore he is completely free. And then the presiding officiant, it's not really a judge, it's really a full-board colonel who oversees a court martial. Says you are free to go into combat without a weapon to protect yourself.
And you're right. Like it goes from that scene, and this is where I thought that we were going to get more stuff from basic. We were going to see some medic training and things like that. I'm like, nope. Now we're just over there. Like we've just flown around the world, right? And we're in the suck, literally at the bottom of Hacksaw Ridge. Like it goes from the courtroom to the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah,
and they're just looking up.
It does it. It shows them a little bit on the ship, right? Yep.
Were they on the ship? Oh, you're right. They were very briefly, and then they're basically walking up the road to the mountain because we see the guys coming down from the 96 that had gotten pounded.
Yep, and they're the 77th Infantry Division. That's what he was part of, and it gets into it. Like you see like all the broken people, from the like what got just ripped apart on. Then there's like, what happened? It's like Hacksaw Ridge happened, and like they started explaining, it's like they're like how relentless the Japanese were in this war.
And we got to look at that like 5 minutes later.
And a lot of things is that brutality is well documented, and this is well portrayed of like how fierce the Japanese soldier was then, because they believe that their emperor was a living god.
Yep, deity. Yep.
So they were fighting for their god and country, literally in their eyes.
Yep. And let's not forget, like the spirit of kamikaze that led into the attack on Pearl Harbor. That Garfield references that in the court case. I don't remember what the setup line was, but Garfield says, "Because I took Pearl Harbor personally, that's why I want to go." Yeah. And I'm like, okay, he's made his case, but. When they were walking after the transports land, or however they disembarked, I don't remember that scene. But when his group is walking up the road, basically that the Allies controlled, getting to Hacksaw Ridge, we see like trucks. Like I don't remember what the technical designation is of those kind of like open flatbed kind of trucks, like troop transports, I guess. But there were bodies stacked on them.
Probably deuce and a halves.
That's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to call it out because that's not my specialty. But like, dude, they had bodies just like laying in there like slabs. Stacked, like piles of dead men.
The wounded sitting there, like just
looking shocked.
The 1,000-yard stare.
I thought they nailed that, dude. These guys are covered in blood and grime. They're bandaged up. The bandages are soaked through with blood. We got dudes that are missing half an arm and everything. Oh, it was disgusting, but it was perfect disgusting in this movie because it wasn't. I mean, I don't think that. Do you think that was blown? I mean, it's not blown out of proportion. Like, dude, if you take a flamethrower or you take an MG42, actually, they don't have MG42. The Japanese LMG, I think, is a Type 99. I think the one that has the vertically inserted magazine.
Their version of the M60 automatic rifle.
Right, that hits you in 3 different places across the chest. You like your cavity is removed. You know what I mean? Like you get destroyed. So when those guys are coming down the hill in bits and pieces and just looking like they got obliterated, it's because they got obliterated. You know? And you got Garfield there just doing his thing, like he's looking at guys taking their helmets off, like as the wounded are being rolled down. Yeah, that was some somber shit. Like you knew you were in for it.
Yeah, I mean, it lived up to his name, Hacksaw, because it looked like you went through a hacksaw.
Yep, dude, absolutely. And like, so let's, for you guys that haven't seen the movie, like literally what the objective these guys were ordered to take is they controlled the lower part of a smaller part of one of Okinawa's islands, or some area. I'm not familiar with the geography. Excuse me on that. They needed to take a mountain. I'm just going to call it that. But it's a vertical 0-degree incline, or whatever that angle would be, like a sheer vertical drop.
90-degree.
I guess it would be 90 would be flatter from the base, right? But they've basically taken a cargo net to get up. So they got to climb to the top, survive and set up like a forward operating station, which they never really do. They never really get a line established at the top.
So the type of advance they did was an advance in take. So they were never trying to set up a perimeter. They were trying to remove the enemy and then secure. So
they never would have tried to have a staging point from the top just so they could continually reinforce and bring the wounded back.
It would be, well, see, that's where they have the holding. You have your foothold where they climbed up to. They had their foothold, and then they had their green zone. Easy way to put it. And then they would do moving to contact because they're trying to take the whole ridge, so they have to keep moving forward. And
you're right, we did see that because Vince Vaughn kept telling him, push up, jump in the next hole. We're gonna get that bunker, then we're gonna leapfrog and get into the next spot.
Yeah,
which I thought that combat sequence was great.
Yeah, because Okinawa was the key of taking mainland Japan.
Right. And they literally verbatim, Sam Worthington said that to the guy. And I think he said that after they all looked up. So I mean, they timed that dialogue.
Get the ridge, we get Okinawa, we get Japan.
Right, we get Japan. Right. So it's like, because you can imagine what those guys must have thought after seeing the meat grindered guys come back, right? And then you just look, and I don't think they ever mentioned. Do you know how high? Like, what was the verticality of where they were climbing to? 5 stories, 10 stories. You know what I mean? Like, to put it in perspective, like, it's not like taking a ladder up to clean the leaves out of your gutter. Like, it was a mountain climb on a vertical cliff face, with just a cargo net. Like, that's it. It was crazy just watching them guys do that. And the whole time they're doing that, right, I'm figuring that the first guy up over that lip is going to get machine gunned to the face. So, like, the movie messes with you.
It was a 400-foot.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
Cliff.
That's crazy, man. I don't know what that is in like building stories, but like 10, I don't know. Like it's high.
Yeah, 400 feet. That's crazy. No joke.
No joke. That's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing to compare it to. It's half the height that they jump out of for parachutes for airborne operations.
This is what I'm saying. So these guys climbed up with all their gear, all their weapons, climbed a net, and like didn't know what was at the top. I mean, I guess they knew because they did have guys that came back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they did have wounded that made their own way back down. Because at that point of the movie, they didn't have a system set up to like bring wounded down that were like immobile. Like Garfield did his thing, and then when they went back up on the second attempt at the end of the movie, they had rigged a like a litter to come down. You know what I mean? Like a stretcher on like a zip, not a zip line. You know what I mean? Like they had the ability to like move guys down, like they were laid out. Yeah, but they didn't have that when we got there in the first place. I thought that was interesting too.
I don't think they showed it because they did have people who were on litters because you saw them on actual litters being carried out that way.
I figured maybe they just put them on the ground. I didn't.
Well, they did lower them back down because you saw the Jeeps moving them, and then you saw the field hospital later.
Yeah, you're right. They did have that. Oh, okay. All right, retract it a little bit then.
Yeah, they just didn't show it. I think it wasn't portrayed until the end when Desmond was on the litter.
But I'm quite certain he was the only one. I'm pretty sure he was the only one that was absolutely just roping dudes down like on belay, by himself to get these guys out. But let's talk about the battle because the movie does this cool bit where it opens on that battle, and I love this. It's one of the things I like about movies that do this. I like when they throw me immediately into something, so I get to see the idiocy that we're walking into, and then it jumps back and we start over. And then we see the progression into that idiotic battle scene. You know what I mean? It's like we'd already seen guys get obliterated.
It's that that different type of prologue. So you have 2 different type of prologues. You have the prologue that tells you what type of world you're in. Like if we're going into fantasy, it tells you what like type of magic and stuff like that. You take the beginning of Wheel of Time, the book, not the stupid TV series, but the book.
There is no TV series.
Where they show a little bit of the magic and where the dragon pulls the mountain on top of him with all of his power and everything. And then you jump into the world years later and you know what type of world and like you're going to know what type of power you're going to see later. And then you have the other one where it puts you at a certain point. You have the promise there of we're going to get here and now we're going to show you how we got there. And that's the type of prologue that this movie has.
And what I love most about that is they reuse that battle footage. Like when we got back to it, I'm like, oh, that's the part where the guy got flamethrowered and fell over the barricade. I'm like, so they set you up and then they seamlessly transition into that part and section of the battle. when it happens. But my God, the battle up top there, especially on, I'm trying to remember the order that it happened. There was one big infantry charge the Japanese laid on them, where they came up from the foxholes. It was I thought it was the next day. That's what I thought.
The next day, because after they took the bunker and then they dug in. And then
that was insane, dude. That was like 67 trillion people, bayonets affixed, rushing at you. Like, what do you do but die? Like that's it. Like that should have been it.
The tenacity of the Japanese soldier was the fierce. I think the units that had to do the island to island hopping in the Pacific had some of the worst combat that you'll ever see. There's like Europe was no joke to begin with, but the units that were doing the island to island jumping was just completely crazy.
Europe didn't have any people crawling out of bunkers and tunnels and shit like that to surprise them at dawn and cut them up.
No,
we saw that, and we were soldiers as well.
Like there was new tactics, but from the old school, the whole columns marching together, fire. Second unit comes up, fires, reload. There wasn't much change from that type of tactics. I mean, they went to the trenches and firing over that because firearms got better, but there was still that type of mindset. The Japanese had a whole nother mindset when it came to it was kill as many as you can and go out if you're going to fight. If you're going to go down, take at least 10 with you type.
Well, we get that at the literal end too, where it looks like a group of higher ranking officials are going to do the surrender bit, but they've all got concealed grenades. So they come out of the bunker in their the white, like it looks like a line. I know it's not a loincloth. I'm sure there's a word for it. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just don't know what it is. But it looks like they're going to do like a traditional surrender thing, and they backdrop that against their commander that actually is doing this. What's it called? Seppuku. Like when they commit ritual suicide on their own.
The American version, they call it Harry Carry.
Right. He's doing the disemboweling as his second in command takes his head off. But these other guys are out there with like the white. They put the white flag up, and they crawl up out of the bunker, and then all of a sudden, one of them screams something in Japanese, and they're throwing the little Japanese grenades that look like pineapples. And here comes Desmond Doss, Batman himself, after he's already saved 75 guys. Runs in and bitch slaps one and kicks the second one out of the way, and that's how he takes the wound to the leg.
Off his foot, yeah.
Right. And I'm like, dude, what else does this guy got to do? Like, he just spent the night up here getting shot at. He took a bullet to the helmet. That was crazy. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
what else you want from this guy?
The sniper battle.
Yep. Which I thought was cool. And one of the things I appreciated most about that scene, honestly, is Vince Vaughn's the sergeant. He's wounded. He's carried the grease gun the entire battle, rapid fire, doing his thing. Dude, you want to talk about guns that never need to be reloaded? Did I? I know my grease gun. You're talking about Hollywood guns that never need reloading. I watched every battle sequence in this movie 5 times. Vince Vaughn never reloads that gun.
Nobody reloaded.
I can only assume the guy, Smitty with the BAR never reloaded that either. You know what I mean? I can only assume the grease gun had a magic magazine of holding. You know what I mean? Unlimited rounds or something. I don't know what else it could have been. But in that sequence, he and Doss figure out without having to verbalize, because you're not giving away everybody's position. Doss knows that if he can get the sniper to take a couple shots at him, Sarge can track the muzzle flash and the sound and get a better look at it. He throws the helmet out. You know what I mean?
And he switches to the M1.
Yes. Because there was no shot that the grease gun was going to accurately hit the sniper, who could have only have been, 50 yards, 100 yards away. That gun wasn't hitting shit at that distance reliably. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, it's got an iron sight on, because this isn't Call of Duty. There's no 4 times magnification, thermographic, magnetic resonance, X-ray scanning optics on these guns.
Times 10.
Times 10, right? And you could, if he holds the left stick, it'll hold his breath automatic, so the sway goes away. Yeah. They didn't have that. He just got the iron sight, and he dings them. And I'm like, dude, did they make that part up? Like, is that in the Desmond Doss biography? I'd love to know that was real. I'd absolutely love to know they didn't make that up. Because I thought that was great. The battle sequences up there with the bayonet charge were nuts. When the Americans got the upper hand and pushed back the other way, that was savage to watch them just go hand to hand with, like, just knifing dudes down. gunning guys down like that. It wasn't pretty. It absolutely was not pretty. But, you know, in the middle of all that, right? In the middle of all that insanity, it just, I mean, contextually speaking, Desmond Doss finds his way into a Japanese bunker and comes across a wounded Japanese soldier. And instead of running him through, because, you know, he's not just going to shoot anybody, he's not going to knife anybody either, right? He puts a bandage on this dude. You know what I mean? And then morphines him and shit. And I'm like, I'm a little choked up. I'm going to be perfectly real with you. A little choked up.
That's one of the things that, you know, the U.S. military, we have to play by rules. I mean, the Geneva Convention, I think, came out after World War II. Yeah. But that's the type of thing. Like, if you're injured, you're out of the fight. If you're not actively, like, if I'm hit and I'm down, my weapon's, like, down next to me and I'm just laying there.
Non-combatant.
I'm a non-combatant, and the enemy, if they come up on me, say the position's overrun, and they see me, they are required to give me aid as needed. So we are required to do the same. So I think that portrayed a lot of that right there, which is, like, reason why a lot of people think we're the good guys, because we do things like that, because we play by the rules.
And it's perfectly in character specifically for him. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't for a second think there was going to be a crisis of conscience scene where he's got to choose between, well, I could break this guy's neck so he doesn't alert the other guys that I've dodged 4 times. You know, talking about God being on your side. This dude's wandering around a bunker system that looks like something from, like, 1995's Doom, right? Doom 2. Like, at one point he hides by walking face first into a corner and, like, letting shadow play. I'm like, all right, wait a minute. That guy walked right by him. Okay. God's real. He protected this guy without a doubt. Right?
Yes.
But, like, he lays a bandage on this wounded guy, gives him the morphine, and then goes back to rescuing more wounded dudes. And they make a point of saying it, you know, it's somewhere along the line. Like, this guy's lowered like 100 guys down, including some Japanese. And then that same guy's like, but they didn't make it. I'm like, that's fucking ominous.
Yeah.
Like, that's ominous. Yeah. Well, I mean, both sides in this movie, you can see them. When each side had their win, the other side kind of legit followed up by shooting a couple of people that were down. The Japanese had some bayonets going into bodies to make sure people were dead. You know, there was some savagery on both sides up there. You know, rules notwithstanding. But it was all very unsaid. The flamethrower in particular, dude, the flamethrower is an evil weapon, man. Evil weapon.
Oh, yeah.
They fired it down into one of them bunkers. I was like, oh, fuck that. Nope. Nope. Give me the bullet. Give me the bullet. Yeah, I thought that was kind of unrelentingly savage. But yeah, it was, I don't know. I think that this might be the best of what we've watched so far. And maybe just because it was a first watch, so it hits harder than Black Hawk Down because it was a first watch for me. What do you think of that?
I think it was really good. I do. I think this movie was well done. I think one of the things we didn't talk about with him rescuing the soldiers. So, like, first off, he had cover from the artillery keeping their heads down, so he was moving around while they were bombing
during the night.
The top. And then, like, that stopped. So then he had to start sneaking around. And then it was night. He had the cover of night. And then, like, he's, like, physically exhausted at this point after lowering all these people down that he's done so far. And he's going through the night. And, like, he's, like, he said at the end of the movie, he just kept praying. He's like, God, help me find one more. And then you do one more. He's like, all right, God, help me find one more. And one of the books I've recently listened to by Ed Minette called The Power of One More. And I'm like, this embodies the power of one more because he's literally saving people's lives. Like, you see the guy who was naked at the beginning and they made him do basic training.
Hollywood.
Like, they called him Hollywood, and he gets him down. And, like, the captain's like, I still got men up there. And, like, I ain't got people to send up there. Well, you have one guy who's still up there pulling him down, doing what the captain wanted to do. And then he's like, you got to see this. And they're like, Doss is still up there. And he was like, and then at the end where it's like, you're supposed to do that raid in 10 minutes. He's like, what's the holdup? We're waiting for Doss to get done praying.
Private Doss.
Yeah, Private Doss to get done praying. Because it was his Sabbath. Because he's a Seventh-day Adventist, his Sabbath is Saturday because it's the end of the week. And one of the views of keeping the Sabbath holy is that you don't work on the Sabbath.
There was a great scene that led into that, like because that's after he's already after he's already down and cleaned up and everything from the first run. But that first, when he comes down the net after he brings down the last guy, he gets down to the bottom, and then they again Garfield with the win, right? It all hits him. He gets all glossy-eyed, teary. One of the guys tries to touch him, make sure he's okay. Dude, he's done. He's exhausted. And he starts he's pushing dudes off. Like, no, get off of me. And like they have to, like they're basically like, Desmond, it's okay. All of them, all the dudes that beat his ass that survived. Any of those surviving guys, and then you can see the rest of them parting. They're just getting out of the way as they're trying to walk, Desmond back to like the field hospital or whatever to get checked out, to be showered, to eat, to drink, like whatever. Like they're literally parting, like like the music. Let's talk score here for a minute. Perfect for a war movie. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
It had the inspirational bits when he's doing his thing. It had the action bits when that was popping off. It had the somber shit when the Americans took their licks on that first push. The score was great. I thought the score was absolutely great here. Perfect. No jokey notes. Like, Heartbreak Ridge, for all it was an 80s flick, so it had some jokey notes at different times because the tone was different anyway.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is supposed to be a very serious movie based on one guy's, biographic situation. Yeah, dude, this was a slamming good movie.
All right, so you heard what we've said about it. Let's listen to what the professionals have said about this. The film
Dude, he air quoted
received-
professionals.
The film from the 89th Academy Awards was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Sound, and Best Editing. Do you know what it won for?
Editing.
Best Sound and Best Editing.
Yeah.
Now, in the Australian Academy Awards, it was nominated for Best Film, Best Direction, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor, Garfield, and Best Supporting Actor, Weaving. Guess what it won?
Weaving.
All of them.
Oh, get out of here. Clean sweep. Good for them. Good.
Yeah,
The Aussies got it right. Good for them.
12 Australian Academy Awards nomination and winning the majority to include Best Film, Best Direction, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor for Garfield, and Best Supporting Acting for Weaving.
Yeah, then do we look up what actually beat it in America for Best Actor?
I can pull that up right now.
Well,
We're pulling it up. All right, so
cut this bit if you haven't found it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, right.
Oh, Best Movie was Moonlight.
What?
Yeah. Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea won Best Actor.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now. And I remember there actually being a little controversy with that, because that was a good performance, if I remember right. Like, it wasn't completely unjustified. So, I mean, maybe Garfield got caught up in some Hollywood anti-Mel sentiment at the time.
Yeah.
Like Lost by Association kind of thing. I don't think I've seen Manchester by the Sea, though, but I remember it having a fair share of acclaim. Like, it was righteous in winning, if I remember right.
Moonlight was the Mustafa Ali film. Yeah, he won Best Supporting Actor for it.
No, I don't remember it.
Best Screenplay went to Manchester by the Sea. Best Adaptive Screenplay was Moonlighting. Best Supporting Actress was Viola Davis for Fences. Emma Stone won Best Actor for La La Land. And Desmond, that also won Best Director was La La Land.
Then it was a tough year, but I've seen a couple of those, and I think that Hacksaw Ridge was undoubtedly the best of the things that I saw. Maybe just because the war movie kind of genre speaks more to me than the other serious drama stuff. But yeah, for me, like, if we're not doing scores for any of the movies this month, guys, because these are kind of some serious topics and real people were in them, so we're not gonna pick it out like that. But I think we can both. I'll speak for both of us. I think, and we can definitely give it a recommend. Like, if you can tolerate war movies, because they're not easy to tolerate. I get that.
It is very graphic.
It is super, super graphic. Yeah. Some of the war wounds are right up there. I mean, this might be the most graphic thing out of the bunch. I mean, even because it's really in We Were Soldiers, people are taking gunshots, and then you get that one guy napalmed.
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Yeah, I can't remember if it was Nakahama or Takayama. I couldn't remember. But yeah, Jimmy. That was a grotesque wound that happened But there's multiple. There's probably a good dozen wounds in this that are sick. Gunshot wounds to the face. We get some deheadings of things. Lots of explosive injuries. The flamethrower injuries that we mentioned. It gets gnarly in there. So if it's not for the faint of heart. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can't handle that, if you don't enjoy watching that, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But having said that, if the war genre movie, if you've missed this one and you're into that kind of thing, I don't think you come away from this disappointed. What do you think? I just don't see how you could be.
No, I think it was very well done. Like it
Yep.
tracked his life, it built the character, and then it showed what he did.
And you mentioned it earlier, and we can leave. We'll leave it after this a little bit. Stick around like for the end of the movie, like right into the credits, because they actually interview Desmond Doss and his brother, who's got some commentary on on what it was like, during the time and whatnot. And they get into that, and they give you the captions on the screen that give you some little factoids about Dorothy, his wife, and things like that, which I thought was nice. It was cool to see that kind of thing. But I think that's going to do it for us. King Z, read us out of here.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us as we review Hacksaw Ridge, both our first time viewing. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as we continue our Salute to Soldiers month in honor of Memorial Day. Hit that thumbs up because it does help get the video out to other people who might enjoy this. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next drop of a war movie, which we have one more movie, and then we're going into the series that's going to be released on Memorial Day week. So go ahead and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. Other than that, thank you for coming along. Make sure that you remember that Memorial Day is not a day just for barbecues. It's a day for those who've given all for everything you did to enjoy. So I think that's going to wrap it up for me.
Guys, we'll see you in the next one. If you want to let us know in the comments section below other World War II era movies you'd like us to take a peek at, or just other war movies in general, maybe we can expand the scope of the channel a little bit and get into that genre, because there's definitely some classics out there that we're not covering at this point. But yeah, let us know down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.